All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, my beautiful people. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in and thank you for all the constant love, support, and feedback. I'm trying to get back to it. Happy 1 month of this YouTube channel. I just want to note that this started about a month ago and this is already the sixth video, so it's really dope. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in and liking and looking at all the videos. And yeah, without further ado, let's begin. The first one, I want to say is the best one that my cousin pulled out. It was actually the last one that we got in the store. It was this MTV Unplugged Nirvana, and it's, I think, deemed as the best MTV Unplugged by a lot of people, and it's simply due to the fact that for most of the time they do multiple takes for the MTV Unplugged, or they did, and this one was done all in one take. So I believe they did anywhere from like 13 to 19 tracks. I think it was 19 tracks. The only thing was that a lot of people, especially Kurt Cobain at the time, were feeling a bit nervous due to the fact that he was going through withdrawal, and the band wasn't used to like live performances, especially to this extent. So I think it's really dope that he was able to channel a different type of energy, even due to the set design that he did. He kind of did it almost like a funeral, with the lighting being dark and the ambiance changing in a specific mood. And fun fact, they even hid one of the little Fender amps in a fake cutaway monitor wedge, so that way people wouldn't look at the specific thing that they were listening to the sound from, and they just wanted to merge it into the set piece. So I think that's really cool how he was able to do specific things like that, where you're able to tweak it, and they were do for such great songs for Come As You Are. And I think it's really dope how this was filmed in New York and deemed as one of the best. So yeah, shout out my boy Kurt, R.I.P. The next one is going to be Oxymoron by Schoolboy Q. This one I would say was really dope because this is his first commercial album. He dropped a few mixtapes, I believe, right before this, but he was trying to drop a classic, quote unquote, because Kendrick dropped Good Kid, Mad City as a great success under TDE, and I think it's really cool how Schoolboy Q wanted to drop another banger to drop it off as like a consecutive hit, and he dropped like Collard Greens featuring Kendrick. And it's really dope how this got him his number one, and this was 139,000 units sold in the first week. And it's really dope how this ended up building on to the next album we're about to talk about. So it's really dope because I wrote it down right here in my notes that this actually got a received a Grammy nomination for 2015 for Rap Album of the Year. So I think it's really dope how he was actually able to be contending for that type of stuff, especially when it comes to this specific album. So yeah, shout out my boy Schoolboy Q. He was grinding. That going from his first to now his fifth one right here, which I got, is super dope. A lot of people don't like this specific album simply due to the fact that I think it deviated from the sound of that specific era. But such standout tracks to me were Lies featuring Ty Dolla Sign, Dangerous featuring Kid Cudi, and then you had like Crash, you had Black Folk, which were cuts that were making you feel like a specific type of way for the sound of this album. But it also showcases how Schoolboy Q was no longer on the type of wavelength where he was before when he dropped other standout albums and mixtapes. He was now more so looking for like peace and tranquility, trying to build assets. And it's really dope because he's talking about his daughter, he's talking about going to the golf course to get a peace of mind, you know, how it's a different time for him. So I think it's really cool. And on top of that, I wanted to speak about the fact that this album was right after the fact that he dropped Blank Face LP. So a lot of people really like Blank Face LP. And I think that's why this one wasn't heralded as like one of the best ones that he dropped. Maybe it was due to the timing, maybe it was due to the fact that there was other great albums at the time, but I would still say this is probably like my favorite Schoolboy Q album. This one and then Blue Lips are arguably like changing for 1 and 2, but I would say this one always kind of squeezes it out for the first one. So yeah, shout out my boy Schoolboy Q. Hopefully he releases new songs coming out after Blue Lips. So yeah, and the next one, this one's a bit controversial due to the fact that Kanye's just Kanye. So I think it's dope because Kanye was able to channel something different in this specific album. This was his first album that he ever released. And it's cool because the mascot album that we see in the cover art is actually a prop that he found in the school, and they actually didn't let him keep it, so he had to like recreate the entire thing just so that we could get the whole rollout and everything, and they approved it, thankfully. So that's how we get to see this. But it's so dope how he was actually able to release great songs in a great body of work. This fun fact was actually number two when it released. It had 441,000 units sold in the first week, and it still got number two, which is crazy because like Schoolboy Q got 139,000, like I mentioned earlier, and he got number one on his first week. So you can imagine what type of music was being released around like 2003, 2004. And this is coming after the fact that Kanye had his songs leaked, and the whole album leaked, matter of fact. So he actually had time to like remix, remaster, do everything from scratch basically. And I think it's really cool how he was actually able to not even write any lyrics according to like videographers and people who were around when this time was around. And I think it's dope because many of the samples we hear, such as like Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin, were actually brought in from his then girlfriend's dad. So I think it's dope because he was able to transform and make something different out of something that he was given. So yeah, like he, thankfully that man gave us a classic with this one. And the next one was actually also my cousin. Shout out my cousin, he's pulling out grails. But this album was the soundtrack for a movie that came out like 1984 with this specific name. I was not around in 1984, sadly. I was born in 2000. But I do know that Princess Heralded is like one of the greats up there. And I think it's dope because anything from his artistic design to the way he dressed to the way he always embodied like his swag on the stage, I think is super dope. And this is also a fun fact, the first time he ever brought out his backing band, The Revolution. So it wasn't just Prince now, it was Prince and The Revolution. And there was such standout tracks, and I think that the cover art for this is phenomenal. It's super dope. And I also think that he, alongside Michael Jackson, are two of the greats, and I think great competition breeds great things. So I'm glad that they were around at the same time, kind of like Messi and Ronaldo, or yeah, like just two other greats where you need push, kind of like Kendrick and Drake as well, where you kind of need to push giving back, where greatness breeds other greatness. So it was dope because it spent 24 weeks on the top 200, and it sold 25 million copies. It had 2 number ones and 4 top 10s. So yeah, Prince was just delivering bangers after bangers. And talking about it, to end off the video, we're going to talk about the final one, which was actually Tyler's first ever Grammy winning album. So I think that's dope. And this was the first time he ever put on the cover all songs written, produced, and arranged by Tyler Okonma. So I think it's dope because it kind of made people look at him in a different light, where they may listen to a song but they're like, oh, I don't like the lyrics, but I like the composition of the strings, or the piano was awesome, the break in this specific part was great. So like his production is great, but maybe his lyrics aren't there. So they kind of shined a light in a different sense. However, he was already doing all this stuff way before many people had noticed that he written it down. I think it's dope how now they're looking at it different. He even stated in an interview recently where him doing this was actually able to take into account that a lot of people are going to change how they look at him. And I think that's a great way to put it, where if now you're putting everything that you do, and people are able to now like look at it from a different perspective, it's able to change the music or how people will perceive you. So I think that's dope. Songs such as like New Magic Wand or Earthquake were great, and you could see how his progression has kept on going till now. You know, Call Me If You Get Lost, Chromacopia, and then now Don't Tap the Glass. So I think it's really dope how this kind of bred into what we now know. And yeah, it was super dope because he produced the entire album by himself, and like I said, it won him his first Grammy. So I think it's so dope how just the narrative arc is dope. You get to go through different phases slash stages of whatever he's going through specifically, which would be like infatuation, complications within a love triangle that he's dealing with on this album. And I wrote right here that eventually it leads to a form of like acceptance and forgiveness that he gives himself and he grants himself through all this like hardship that he dealt. So yeah, I think it's super dope. And it's also cool how Are We Still Friends loops into Igor's theme perfectly. You end the track and it does a perfect sonical loop. So yeah, shout out my boy Tyler for doing such great things like that. Yeah, it's just amazing. And talking about amazing, shout out you guys. I appreciate you guys. this is the 1 month anniversary, like I stated earlier, and I'm gonna keep going. Thank you guys so much, and I love y'all, appreciate y'all, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Deuces.